In total, I didn't have my cycle for about 7.5 years, from December of 2006 to sometime in the spring of 2014. So our infertility story starts in the spring of 2002. I was a senior in college at the University of Kansas, and my boyfriend at the time, Justin, who is now my husband, was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. And after that diagnosis, about 2 to 3 weeks later, he had major surgery to remove that cancer. We were really blessed in regard to him not having to do chemo or radiation. They were able to get all of it, through that surgery. But as like a small percentage side effect of that surgery, he is not able to have children naturally. So it was kind of a positive and a negative for me. Positive because now I didn't have to worry about birth control, but negative in the sense that we had to really plan out, like, when are we gonna have kids? And it was, it's never a good time. Once we got married, I went back to school to get my music degree. I started teaching and I started doing competitions. I'll talk about like how I got into competitions in a different video. That's, a whole like kind of a roundabout story. But I'll do that in a separate video. But when I started competing, that's when my issues began. My cycles had never been really that regular, and my doctors just always chalked it up to me being an athlete. So I was like, okay, whatever, I don't know. They were always like long cycles. So in terms of like the time between, so 6 or 7 weeks between each cycle instead of the normal like 28 days. And when I started getting into competition prep, I started that prep, my very first prep in January of 2007. And it was it was in February of 2007. And it was pretty extreme. I had a competition the first week of April. So it was like an 8-week prep, no fats at all. I ended up going into that competition. I won my pro card for the WNSO in their bikini division in that competition in Boston. And 3 weeks later, I was gonna they had another division called the fitness model. That's where I was really trying to, get my pro card, because I just signed with a fitness modeling agency. And that was more of the look that I wanted to go for, versus the bikini look. And I ended up, going to the Worlds later on that year in June. I dieted like that entire way. It ended up being 13 weeks, well actually 14 weeks, because then I had a photo shoot the week after Worlds. So it was 14 weeks in total with this like extreme diet. And when when every competition was done, or when that last photo shoot was done, my coach would just tell me, take one day off, eat whatever you want, and then Monday go back on the plan. So that's what I would do. I would, have this like crazy binge day. And then Monday I would go back on the plan, and it was extremely hard. It was like, this roller coaster of food and sugar and like all kinds of, feelings, bloatedness, constipation. I ate that way for a long time, because I then started competing again in the fall. But when I hit my 28th birthday, I decided, hey, I need to get pregnant. I probably should have a baby before I'm 30. And I don't know what spawned that in my head, but that's the thought that came to my mind. So I had, been working with my doctor, and she was like, when you want to get pregnant, you just let me know. I will, send you to the right place. But we never did blood work. We never, looked at what was going on with my body, what's my thyroid doing, anything like that. I started the process of doing ICSI. Justin was also involved in this process, so they had to collect sperm from him through a surgery. And it was kind of unsure, like, are we gonna get some, are we gonna not? But we were blessed to be able to retrieve sperm from him. So I started the process of growing eggs. So I did a 6-week protocol of progesterone shots. And at the end, I took something else. I can't remember what it was. And then they did the egg retrieval like a few days later. And in that first fresh cycle, they were able to get somewhere like 14, 15 eggs. And then from that, from both of those surgeries, they were able to create like 9 embryos. So the top 3, they rate them like A minus, B plus, on down. The top 3 of those, I think they had 9. I can't remember exactly, but anyway. So the top 3 were put in, and 2 of them took. Thank goodness all 3 of them didn't take. 2 of them took, and that's how we got Alex and Aiden. After that, I never got my cycle back in between pregnancies. I nursed the boys for 10 months, and I couldn't keep on the weight. I was eating so much. And of course I went back to working out. All I had in my house was a treadmill, so I went back to a lot of running, at least 45 minutes a day. That was my same protocol as before, getting ready for a competition prep. 45 minutes Monday through Friday, and then on Saturdays I would do 60 minutes, and Sunday was a rest day. So I built myself back up to that and started doing that. So basically I was running like a 10K every single day. That would be my goal, to get more than 6 miles, because that meant, whatever pace I was aiming for, yada, yada. I was big into running then. And I was doing a lot of Pilates then as well, a little bit of weight training. I honestly never went to the gym a lot. I just did some stuff at home with dumbbells, but I was doing a lot with Pilates. That's when my Pilates DVDs came out. That's when I was writing Pilates articles for various magazines and doing photo shoots for that. So, my life was really based a lot around those kind of things. Plus I was big into the WOW movement at that point in time. If you're local, you know what that is. But then, throughout that time period as well, I did 3 frozen cycles with those embryos that were from the first fresh cycle. And those 3 frozen cycles didn't take. But to prepare for each one of those, I had to do the same thing again. I had to do 5 weeks of progesterone shots. So there's 3 more rounds of that. When that last one didn't work, we decided we wanted to try one more fresh one because we had success with that. So we went through the whole process again, and ended up just getting 2 embryos out of the whole last fresh cycle. We put in those 2 embryos, and that's how we got Abigail and Ava. And then afterwards, I nursed the girls as well. I nursed them for 10 months as well. That was my goal, to at least make it to as long as, as I had nursed the boys. And so I never got my cycle back through that. But at that time, I was still working with Kathy Savage Fitness, and coaching for them. And my coach Jen, she was really pushing the fats on me. I never used any supplements. I still never checked any blood work. That wasn't a big thing back then, kind of like it is now. And I just naturally let it come back on. My weight, I never made it back down to my pre-pregnancy weight. I should say I've only made it down to my pre-pregnancy weight once, and that was at a competition, nationals 2 years ago. I dropped back down to 136, but other than that, I have never dropped below 140, which 140, I think we all kind of have that number that we're like, oh, I hit the limit, now I got to diet. So for reference, my lowest competition weight was 128. My kind of happy weight, around my pregnancies was 135, 136. Now, currently today I am 155. And I'm 13 weeks out from competition. So, kind of low 150s is now my quote unquote happy weight. But I really pushed the fats back then, and my cycle ended up coming back in the spring of 2014 when the girls were a little over a year and a half years old. So, that is my infertility story. And, if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would, because of course, I was super blessed to be able to have, 4 healthy children, when at one point in time, we weren't sure that we were even going to be able to have kids at all, kids of our own anyway. And so I'm super thankful, for that. And it also, I wouldn't change it either, because it really spawned my interest in helping others not have to go through the same things that I have gone through, the same, hormonal deficiencies that I have gone through that caused other issues, that caused gut issues, that have caused issues with my bones. I've had so many stress fractures. I don't know if it's from the running, from the nutrition, or probably from both of them combined, honestly. I don't want people to go through the same thing. I've learned now through a lot of trial and error on myself, a lot of studying functional nutrition, studying various supplements that can help support women go more healthy into competition prep, and then get themselves back to a healthy spot afterwards as well. A lot of people don't do the reverse correctly, and it leaves them with long-term issues, and that's something that I want to help prevent happen to other women who love this sport just as much as I do, or who don't even know that they love it yet. They're going into this for the first time and want to have a good experience, and that's what I want to give them. So now I require that you are doing different types of hormonal testing, whether it's a Dutch test, and blood work, before we even start, to make sure that things are in an optimal place for us to even start this process. Otherwise, we take a couple months to get you there, and then monitoring all of that all throughout, and making sure that we get back to that optimal place, so that moving forward, you don't have so many issues having children, or with lingering weight gain post-competition, whatever it might be, prolonged thyroid issues, issues with constipation, or bloating, or whatever it might be that can come from extreme dieting, like a competition prep. So you have to know mentally, going into it, this is extreme, but at the same time, you can get yourself back out of it. You just have to be prepared mentally as much as physically to do that work. So that is my goal as a coach now. And my past, it really inspired me to help women have the best experience that they can in a competition prep. So if you like this kind of information and you want to hear a little bit more about my competition prep, about fitness and nutrition in general, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe as well. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later. Bye.